welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be making the Arvo dress. I'm really excited about this one because it comes together so fast and it is super simple. First off, we're going to cut out our pattern pieces, and you can see that I've gone ahead and done that. We have one for the back, one for the front. I've got pockets, so I've got 4 of those, and now I'm going to talk to you about the tulip skirt portion. So this is the panel that will go in between here, like that. Now I wanted to show you this because it is one pattern piece. So you'll see the markings here where if you go all the way down, that is to cut for the back and that is cut on the fold. To cut for the front, you would simply fold along this line in the pattern, like so. And then that's how you would cut for the front on the fold. Now, I have included in the instructions what you can do if you are short on fabric and are unable to cut on the fold, or you just want to use some scraps. And I actually ran into that myself. So what I did is I cut my pattern piece for the back with added seam allowance down this side, so you can see that that's not cut there, right? I also did that on the other side with the fabric I had. So then what I can do is I can cut these just as flat pieces. So I cut this one like that, this one like this with the added seam allowance, and then all I need to do is pin those together, stitch it down with whatever seam allowance you included, finish that seam, press it, and then it is as if you cut that on the fold. That's a really great thing to do if you are short on fabric or just want to pattern match the way you want. All right. Now that I've given you that little tidbit, we're going to go ahead and we are going to mark all our notches. That is going to be one of the most important things we can do. We have notches on the front and back of the dress, here and here, and that is the marks for where we are going to gather in between. We also have double notches at the underarm and a single notch that represents the back and the front, and if you're making the sleeved version, that will also help you when inserting the sleeve. I am going to be doing the sleeveless version for this video because I think my method of putting in the bias can be confusing if you're reading it, but if you're watching it on video, it's super simple. We'll come back after we have finished marking all our notches. Okay, now that we have marked all our notches, we are going to set our pattern pieces to the side. And I'm just going to quickly show you what I explained earlier, which is how I cut my back skirt. Oh, sorry, I should stop calling it a skirt. Back tulip panel with added seam allowance. And I'm going to show you this because it is a great way to cut out this pattern. So I'm going to match it right sides together, and we're going to just pin it down here, and then I'm going to sew it with the added seam allowance. Now for my one, actually, because I did stripes, I matched it up based on stripes. So let's have a look. 5/8 of an inch. So I'm going to now sew that down 5/8 of an inch, finish the seam, and press it to one side. Okay, I'm back from the machine, and you can see, here it is from the front. And when this is gathered, you're barely going to see that seam. And then here it is in the back. You can see I sewed that, finish the edge, and press it to one side. And now we have a back tulip panel. Okay, we're going to set that to the side, and we are going to bring back our dress pieces. So I'm going to grab my front and my back, and we are going to stay stitch at the armhole right here and at the neckline. We do that so it doesn't stretch out while we are making our pretty dress. Okay, you can see that I've stay stitched around my neckline. So there you go, it's actually easier to see from the wrong side. So there you go. And then at each underarm, like so. I do recommend that you do this as well if you're making the sleeved version, because fabric it stretches when you least expect it. All right, now that we've done that, we can get started on the tulip panel. To start, I'm going to do the front of the dress first. So you want to check that your single notches are the ones that you have grabbed, and then with the tulip panel, it is the shorter one that you are grabbing. Once you've got the correct pieces, what you're going to do is you're going to create a gathering stitch between the two notches on the tulip panel. So mine is here and here. I've also marked the center notch. Make sure you do that. That is very helpful when you are gathering. Now I'm going to do 2 basting stitches along here between the 2 notches, and that's going to allow me to gather this into the skirt piece. I'll come back when I've done that. Okay, here's how my basting stitch looks on my tulip panel. There it is from the wrong side, and I've left my long tails for gathering. Now what we're going to do is we're going to just kind of flip it that way. I know that seems really strange, but this is how we are going to attach it. So let me just pull this up. We're going to start right here, which matches up to this part of the tulip. So it's going to look like this when you're starting out. So there's my panel. This is right sides together. And you can see my tulip panel is all the way over here. So you're going to match up the hems right here. And we're going to go all the way up until we meet up with the notches. Okay. Then we are going to find the next notch, which is the center notch. I'm going to find that. There it is. I'm going to match that to the center notch of the front dress piece. Then we're going to jump again to the last notch, and we're going to match it up right here to the other notch on the front dress. Then we're going to continue pinning down the side like we did at the beginning. Okay, so then it's going to be looking something like this. Okay, and now you're just going to go back in and you're going to pull these gathering stitches right here. I'm going to pull it like that, and then you're just going to do that until it fits in between these 2 pins, and the same on this side between those 2 pins. Now that we've gotten that all pinned, we're going to take that to the machine, and we're going to sew with a 1 centimeter or 3/8 of an inch seam allowance which if you've done the gathering stitches like I have, it will go straight in the middle here. I like how that keeps my gathers looking. Then once you've done that, you're going to pull out your basting seams, your basting stitches. Then you will finish it in your chosen method, and I'll come back and show you what that looks like. Here's how it looks with the panel attached from the wrong side. You can see that I have removed my basting stitches, and it's looking all nice and pretty. And now let's look at it from the right side. That's always the exciting part. There you go. You can see how that looks. Now we're going to repeat the exact same process to the back piece, and I'll come back once I've done that. Okay, now that we have a front and a back, it's coming together beautifully. We are ready to put in our pockets. Now, if you are not putting in pockets, what you're going to do is you're just going to finish your side seams on each side. Or you can join them at the shoulder and the side seams and then finish it together, whatever your preference is. For those of you who are doing pockets, let's get started. So I'm going to pop one of these to the back, and I'm going to grab one of my pocket pieces. So this is what your pocket piece is going to look like, and you're going to finish the outer edge in your chosen method. So here are two that I did earlier. You can see that from the wrong side. And then what you're going to do is you're going to match right sides together, these two parts of your pocket with the two notches that we marked earlier. And you're just going to pin that in place right there. And then once you've pinned that, you're going to stitch just there with 1 centimeter or 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. Then you're going to go ahead and finish that side seam. Then you will press this like so, and then we are going to edge stitch that pocket in place. I will come back and show you what that looks like. Okay, we're back from the machine. I'm going to show you this side first. So I've gone ahead and attached the pocket here, and then you can see that then I have gone and finished that seam with my serger. And then if we quickly go to this side, I then pressed the pocket out, and then I did a very close edge stitch right there. And that's going to hold the pocket in place beautifully. Now what we just did, we now need to repeat for the other 3 pockets. Once we've done that, we can then begin to assemble our dress. Now this is where the dress starts to take shape. We're going to grab both our front and back of our dresses, and we are going to put right sides together. This one on top of this one, and we are going to pin the shoulder seams together here like so, and here, and then we are going to pin down the sides matching our pockets. I'm going to continue pinning all the way around like so, continuing it down to the hem. And then we're going to sew all 4 of those seams with 1 centimeter or 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. Okay, we're back from the machine, and now we can look at our side seams where we have now enclosed our pockets. Our shoulder seam is now sewn, and The other side looks good. We're going to turn that right side out, like so. And then we're only 2 steps away from completing the dress. Next step is going to finish the neckline and the armholes with bias. Now we are ready to put in the bias. Now I've got pre-made bias here, and I've also got bias that I've made with the tutorial I've included in the pattern. I recommend making your own bias only because the drape would be the same as the fabric that you've used, and I like how that feels. However, not all of us have that time, and some of us are beginners. Whatever the reason, bias, pre-made bias tape works perfectly as well. So I'm going to set those to the side because I might not have enough anyway, so I might be using a combination of the two. Whatever you use will not be seen on the outside of the garment, so keep that in mind. So you can use whatever you have on hand, it's not going to be seen on the right side. Okay, let's start on the neckline. Now what we're going to do is we're going to do right sides matching the right sides. I like to start at the back, so let me just flip that around so it's easy for me. This is my back, and then what you're going to do is you're going to take your bias, you're going to unfold it, okay? So you're going to see that you've got 2 lines that are where I pressed it. And what we're going to do is we're going to take one of those raw edges and we're going to pin it to the outside, right sides together. And we're just going to go around and we're going to pin that all the way around. Once you've finished pinning, you're now going to just cut a little bit extra past that point where they meet, like that. And then what you're going to do is you're going to just overlap like so, and you're going to just mark where they overlap. So like that, and like that. Now you're going to see those 2 little marks that I did, and so what you're going to do now is you're just going to grab the 2 sections like so. You're going to match up where you marked on each side like that, and you're going to pin it there. Okay, like that. Then you'll take that to the machine and you're just going to stitch just straight across here, snip the excess off, and press that open. Okay, back from the machine, and you can see that we have now sewn that in place, and I'm going to cut off that excess. I can leave about 1 centimeter, which is 3/8 of an inch, and then you can see that it fits the neckline perfectly. Just want to kind of press that down like that so it's flat, and then put a pin in there. Okay, so now that we have the bias that fits the neckline, we are now going to stitch all the way around. I like to do 1 centimeter all the way around, 3/8 of an inch, but you're welcome to use, if you're using pre-made bias, you can use where it's already pre-pressed. That's a lot easier. So we're going to do that all the way around, and then I will show you what we're going to do next with the bias. Alright, now that we have sewn all the way around, so you can see that there, we're now going to understitch, where you're going to push your bias up and away from your garment, like so. I'm going to just push that out, okay? And then you are going to stitch right here, as close as you can, and you're going to catch the seam allowance underneath. that is going to prevent your bias from rolling back up when you're wearing it. So you know how sometimes your bias can come through on the other side, on the right side? By doing this, we're going to stop that from happening. Okay, I'm back from the machine, and you can see that I have gone ahead and understitched. They go all the way around, and now this is where the magic happens. We are now going to press the bias to the inside, like so, and you can already see that pre-pressed edge right there on the bias. You're going to fold that under, okay? So press whole thing to the inside, then you're going to get this raw edge and tuck it underneath like so, and then you're going to stitch all the way around, and that will encase your raw edge, and you will not see the bias from the right side. This is also the time for you to put a tag in, so let me see if I've got one handy. Yes, I do. There's my tag. So I'm going to pop that in when I finish that edge. It's going to look something like that. And there you go. There's our finished neckline. Doesn't that look beautiful? I need to give it a good steam after I wash it. I used a lightweight cotton, but I do recommend in the instructions cutting down the seam allowance inside and snipping into it if there's too much bulk. Mine was very thin, so I just went with it. Now what you're going to do is you're going to repeat this exact same method for your armholes. Okay guys, now you can see that we have finished all our bias binding, and you can see that it has enclosed the raw edge, but you cannot see the bias from the right side. So that's looking wonderful. Now that we have that, we're on to the last part. Hey, last part, it's time to hem this beautiful thing, and it's super simple. All we're going to do is we are going to press the raw edge up by 1 centimeter and then again. And then we are just going to stitch down that, and we are done.